Good evening, y'all. We're back at it. It's the M.A.Y podcast.
Yo,
with
yo, yo.
Malcolm and A.Y.
Yes, sir.
Sunday edition. This is actually our first Sunday episode, so we're excited to get into it. A.Y, how's your week been? A.Y?
It's been cool. I mean, I've been chilling for the most part. I've had a lot of work to do this week, but other than that, I've been fine. You can hurry up and walk across the camera if you need to.
Yeah.
Because we can always just cut it out and shit, so.
Yeah, thank you, Zay.
Appreciate you, Zay.
on the camera work. We appreciate it.
Gang, head ass.
This episode is going to be similar to the second episode where we kind of talk about just regular topics opposed to it being like pretty much a themed episode. But we'll still have another themed episode that'll be coming out in the next couple weeks or so. So I hope you guys look forward to that. So let's get into it, man. The first topic that we're going to touch on.
Shout out to Dean Jones for the mask.
Shout out to Dean Jones for the mask. I don't have mine on me right now. It's back in the house.
He's a bitch.
Here we go. But yeah, no, shout out to Dean Jones for the mask for sure. Really dope. But the first topic that we're going to touch on, we kind of talked about what we're going to touch on at first because I want AY to kind of gather his thoughts before asking him.
That's fine. Just ask the question. Let's get it.
What do you consider to be the worst double standard between men and women?
The worst double standard between men and women?
Yeah.
I definitely think it's the one revolving around how like a woman who's very promiscuous is a hoe, and that's something to be looked down upon in society. Whereas like a man, if he's very promiscuous, he's able to, that bumps his status up as a man.
Right.
Everybody's like, ooh, yeah, we see you getting that pussy and shit like that. Like I think that's the worst one.
Yeah, I mean, I could literally echo what you just said. I feel like that is the worst double standard. I also do, like we're kind of in a time period where like toxicity is kind of promoted, and it's kind of weird because like a lot of people like glorify it now, like doing stuff that's like pretty much
because they do it for clout.
Yeah,
it's for clout.
Yeah.
You know this. It's for clout.
Yeah. But nah, like I 100% agree with that. Like I feel like if we're going to hold these standards of like, being not being sexually promiscuous to women, we should do the same with men. But I mean that we have to be realistic here. Like that's not gonna happen just because like
it's not gonna happen. Yeah. I mean, well, it depends. It could happen in our lifetime. The problem is we would just have to teach a majority of our kids that's a bogus ass standard to live by.
Right.
But do I see it happening? No, because too many people still believe in that standard. Right. And I think it's just stupid because at the end of the day, she's doing what she wants. He's doing what he wants. I don't necessarily see the problem with it. I mean, as long as you're being safe, you're not spreading, STDs or STIs, then then you're nasty. Then I think then that's different.
I think people would be more inclined.
Nasty.
I think people would be more inclined for them to not put sexual stipulations on men and women opposed to like putting them on both.
Right.
Because let's be real, like, yeah, I'm just gonna keep it at that.
You're nasty.
Yeah.
Say it.
Nah.
You're nasty. Say it.
I do feel like in our lifetime, what's going to happen is like I don't think it'll be a situation where like men will be shamed for having sex with multiple women. I think it will be on the realm of women and men kind of like having the same leeway in terms of like just being able to bounce from people to people and stuff like that.
Right.
So yeah. All right, that was a quick topic. I was expecting that to be a little bit longer, but
no, that's because we agree on it. That's why. Because you thought I was going to say something else. No.
Yeah. All right.
That's the main one.
All right, the next question.
All the ladies that want to have sex, have as much sex as you want. Just be safe.
Yeah. Same with men.
And also men do the same shit, but also no means no in both cases.
Yeah. Yeah, for real. Nah.
Dead ass. No means no.
To that point, I feel like both men and women can be taken advantage of.
I was about to say, I think that's another double standard. How like, men, if a guy is told, I said a man, if a guy is told no, then he has to respect it. Whereas like, if you're a guy and you say no, a lot of times women are like, well, I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna rape you anyways. It's like, what?
Well, okay, so the dynamic is slightly different. Because
I understand that, yes.
But I get what you're saying.
I'm saying the concept. Right, I'm trying to say the concept should be the same. Whereas it's like, if I don't want to have sex, then we shouldn't have sex.
Usually
I get it. The males usually the more dominant person.
It's more of a physical thing. Whereas like women, like they may like slip something in your drink or like manipulate you or whatever. Like
men do that shit too.
Men do that too. But I'm saying like in terms of like how like a woman would like sexually take advantage of a man. Usually what happens.
I just think it's just because men are like, since men are more like physically imposing, like, you know, you just see it as, you know, not to mention men are supposed to be like these sex hungry ass niggas where like you're supposed to want to have sex all the time, which is not necessarily true. But, you know, again, what is it? Promiscuity? Is that even a word?
I should know I'm an English major, but it's
I don't know.
I'll only say the word promiscuous.
But being promiscuous is something that if you're a man, it's supposed to be something that's good, that boosts your status and you're standing around other men. So if you're turning down sex and shit, then it's like, oh, you're less of a man because you don't want to have sex. Whereas with the woman, it's like you're supposed to keep that sacred. So if you're, you know, but at the same time, I still think it's bogus. You know, if she says no, it's a no. Right. Period. Yeah. Even if it starts out going your way and she changes her mind, she says no, it's a no. But I feel like that same standard should be carried over to men. But the reason why it's not is because, again, if you're a man, it's seen to be like less of a man, weak and gay if you turn down sex, which is so stupid. But
that's just the way it is. Okay, so we're going on to the next topic. Can you tell me what was your favorite family vacation you ever took?
Damn, I haven't been on one of those in a while.
If you need time to think, I can go. I
got it.
Okay.
So it was my freshman year of high school, and we went to Mexico. That was a good time. We went to Cancun, Mexico.
The food was busting?
Dude. The food was busting. The beach was busting.
How old were you at the time?
So I was like, I was in 9th grade, so that's like 14, 15, around that range.
It was a summer vacation?
It was actually a winter vacation.
A winter vacation.
Yeah, it was over winter break. So we were there like during Christmas time. I think that whole week, the week of Christmas, we were there.
That's crazy. Like,
almost died on that trip though. I'm not gonna cap.
Okay. Now see, this got dark really quick.
It's not necessarily dark.
So what happened? Like allergic reaction?
No. So we're out we're out by the beach and we're swimming, and it's just this very strong undercurrent. And so usually on beaches they'll mark like spots where the lifeguards are there, it's okay to swim there, right. And there'll be areas where like if it's too far out of the lifeguard's vision, he's like, okay, don't swim there. But so I was swimming, I was by myself. I didn't tell my parents where I was, didn't tell my brother where I was. I didn't tell anybody where I was. And I started getting carried out by this undercurrent. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm really getting carried out. Like, it's not even like I'm getting carried out necessarily like vertically, but I'm going more diagonally. So I'm also going to the side farther away from where I was, and also going deeper towards the sea. And so the lifeguard starts blowing his whistle at me to like, hey, get back over. But I can't. I'm trying my ass off to get back over, and I can't, bro. So this is why I'm thankful that I can swim, because I'm just trying to swim and swim.
I know that's a bad thing, but
and I want to say this was like 15 minutes.
15 minutes
of me just being in the water trying to fight back. But when I tell you I ended so far on the end of the beach from where I was, oh my God. Like, when I had finally fought my way back to the beach, I was like, damn, none of this looks familiar at all. And I'm like, oh shit. So like I probably took like a 10-minute walk, maybe 5 to 10 minutes on the beach. But I'm like, damn, that shit was far as hell, considering like I was fighting for a long ass. It might have been longer than that, to be honest, but I felt like it was forever. I don't know exactly how long it is. I'm just gonna say 15, just because that seems relatively in the right area and shit. But yeah, I kept getting carried out. I'm like, God damn, this is like I came to a point where like I really might drown, and I'm just getting carried out. I'm like, damn, that shit was tiring.
And I was about to ask, what day into the vacation was this? This wasn't the first day.
It wasn't the first day.
I was about to say, that can't be the first
day. I think it was like day 4.
I mean, like that's not bad. I mean, it's still like in the thick of things, but it's like that was the first day that could have ruined the whole feng shui of the whole...
I didn't let it ruin my whole vacation. Okay. Like it was just like isolated incident. I was like, okay, I'm alive. Let's go. I'll walk back to where I was on the beach, and we're just gonna continue to have a good time. But I think the best part of that vacation was being able to actually go into like the city of Cancun and actually go into a Walmart that's there, because then you get to actually, because we had to take the bus. So we get to interact with more of the people who are actually there that live there, instead of having to be cooped up in this resort and you're only shown what they want you to see. You actually get to see like the actual city and how people operate. And that Walmart was huge. That was like the biggest Walmart I've ever been in. That Walmart was huge. But I really liked it because you get to see different like products than what you would buy at home in the US. You get to see all the different people, how they interact with each other. But you also see a decent amount of tourists who are there too. Like there was this one European dude, and he was the classic person where, you know, he's got that big ass upper body. He's really built upper body, and then his lower body doesn't exist. It was him. And I was laughing.
He was
I'm
short?
like, no. He was actually kind of tall.
Oh.
I think he was around like 6'2". He was actually pretty tall, but he had no legs. So if I really wanted to, I could flip his ass, and I don't think he would get up. I don't think he'd be able to get up. Like if I pinned his arms down, he damn near wouldn't be able to get up.
If you could pin his arms down.
Yeah, if.
But Cancun, I can't top Cancun, and I can't top like almost.
I don't think that. So my grandparents used to have like this timeshare there. I don't think they have it there anymore. But that's what it was. Oh, it's real nice. Yeah. Perks of being half white.
Yeah. I guess for me, the first. Well, I've been on actually a fair share of vacations, family vacations, but when I was younger, and it's funny that you mentioned that you went on a vacation during like your winter break or whatever in high school. I was a wrestler in high school, so like when we had winter break, we still had like practices and like tournaments and stuff during our winter break. So I never had room for vacation during the year. But one vacation I'll point to that's like one of my favorites is the one I took after sixth grade, going into the summer of 2011. Or maybe, no, actually, it was the summer going into sixth grade. So it was like 2010, the summer of 2010. I remember it because Eminem just dropped Recovery at the time, and my dad was listening to it or whatever. But I took a vacation to Memphis, Tennessee with my father, and we actually took a bus there. And the bus ride was so terrible. Like, we were cramped. Like, literally the seats were, like, terrible. Like, I know it wasn't Greyhound. It was, like, Bus and Go or something like that, like some generic bus place, whatever.
Bus and Go.
That's
funny.
And we hopped on a bus in like downtown Chicago or whatever, and you know, like old dad fashion, like he loves to eat before we hop on any type of transportation. So you know, when me and my dad eat, we eat. So
you used to see what this man eats, bro.
No,
he eats, bro. He eats a lot. I promise you.
Oh man,
a lot.
Let's not do that.
So all right. So this episode, this is technically episode 3, but we recorded episode 4 before this episode. Before episode 4, which I'm not. Well, it might not even be episode 4, but that episode will have to get released a little later, just because of the circumstances about the subject matter that episode is centered around. Mm-hmm. This man had 7 tacos and banged all of them in like 5 minutes.
It was 8. But we're not talking about that. Like,
8.
Can I get back to my story,
8.
please? Can I get back to my story,
8
please?
of them.
Anyway, me and my father took a vacation to Memphis, Tennessee to see family down south. And Memphis, Tennessee is very close to Friars Point, Mississippi or whatever, where like all like my father's side of the family lives. And it was a good time just because like it was like one of the first times that me and my dad like took a solo vacation, just me and him, and it was like a father and son type of dynamic. Even though the bus ride was terrible, like we both ate good. You know, we had time to like really like chop it up with one another and talk about stuff, talk about school, talk about like sports, because that was around the time when I just joined football or whatever. So we were already like on the same accord in terms of like. Both like loving the game or whatever, because he loved football, and I was starting to love football or whatever. And then just on that vacation, I got the opportunity to like just kick it with him. We went fishing together. We played. I forgot what else we played. We played basketball. Even though he told me I sucked before that, but I'll tell that story later.
Oh no, I remember this. I remember.
Yeah, but
that ruined, bro. That
vacation we took that summer was amazing. Like I feel like in terms of son and father bonding, like I feel like that was like the best occasion for sure. But yeah, no, that's one of my favorite vacations.
What was your favorite memory on that vacation?
When we us trying to scarf down our food before we get on the bus.
Of course, it revolves around eating. Of
because
course,
they wasn't gonna let us eat that on the bus, and my father was not going. Like we went to get blackened chicken, which is pretty much like chicken with like it's like a chicken rice combo, whatever, from like a Chinese place or whatever. So it was like a big like styrofoam like platter of it or whatever. So we just trying to scarf it down as we're walking to the bus station. And I just remember saying, shit, I'm gonna get my money's worth. Get on the bus. And we got on the bus and we probably fell asleep within the first 3 hours because we ate so much. So that's a memory. And then just like I think, and then also another memory was like when we first made it there, and like, you know, my dad is a very like I don't know. I wouldn't say he's an introvert.
I can picture that.
What you
mean I can't take this? Man, I ain't about to waste my goddamn food, my goddamn food and my goddamn money. I'm gonna get my money's worth. Hold on. Hey, son, Malcolm, you gotta hurry up. Come on. Eat as fast as you can. Malcolm. Bet.
Anyway, and then also just seeing like how he like lights up when he's like around his mother, whatever, is very dope. Or my grandmother is very dope because I wouldn't say he's emotionless, but he's most definitely more of a stoic person. And just seeing like him like, you know, in a different light in front of like his brothers, in front of his mother is always dope or whatever. But yeah, no, that was one of my favorite vacations I ever took. Yeah, so on to the next topic.
Hold on.
Thank you.
That was on accident.
You always mess up the sound effects.
Yeah,
okay.
You know what? That can get played now, though.
Yeah, for you. The next topic is kind of more of a kind of relates to like the next stage in our life or whatever. So, what is something you're looking forward to the most when you graduate?
No more fucking classes. I promise you, I'm so tired of that shit. I'm so tired of having to wake up early. Like right now, in my last semester, I had this schedule at 8 a.m. I fucking hate it. I miss that class often. And it's because it's at 8 a.m. And even though I have an alarm set for like 7 o'clock, I miss it all the time still because I'll be like, yeah, I got like 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. Snooze. Won't wake up till like 8:15. I'm like, fuck, I missed this class. And the thing is, if I wanted to, I could literally Zoom the class every time, and I still don't because I don't wake up early enough for it. Oh, my God. But just no more schoolwork. Just because being a senior here now, I don't find the schoolwork necessarily hard. It's just that, you know, you still get a decent amount of work, even though you're a second semester senior, which you would think they would, you know, try to load off the work for you, but they don't. It's a little
bit tedious.
But it's just the fact that, you know, I'm so close to being done with school, and I find my mind drifting and thinking about things like, you know, I'm trying to get a job for the future, or the things that are going on campus, right, or like around the world, and how you know I could fit into that, like, or how I wanted to start my, like I said in the first episode of the podcast, my like basically Black Panther Party 2.0. That's not what I'm going to call it, of course, but. It's just I'm thinking of all those other things, and also things that I also like to write about things too. Like lately, I've been working on this piece that's about Malcolm, Martin, and James Baldwin, and it just has to deal with like something that we all.
Did you see that Baldwin?
Yeah. So yeah. I think I might do that too. We watched it
together in class.
Yeah, definitely. But just pulling like what I think is important from them, like lessons that I've learned from them, that I feel like all of society has learned from them, and then like just maybe a major mistake that I see of them, and something that, you know, we could improve on.
So kind of like a synthesis.
Yeah, essentially,
ideology.
I would like to see if I could get that published somewhere. Or that's in a magazine editorial, something like when I finally finish that. I would love to see if I could get that published somewhere, because I feel like that's going to be a very good piece, especially with all the time I'm taking to write it. But just not having schoolwork, because then I feel like I'll have more time to do the things that, like I said, and like I'm talking about, that I want to do. But also just not having that monkey on your back, or that nagging feeling like, damn, I have to, like, because homework, even though I enjoy my classes, I still don't enjoy doing homework because I feel like I'm forced to do this. Whereas, like, I'm a history buff. I love history. Like, I can watch videos on history all day. But unless it's like, for some reason, the Malcolm Martin class, I never had that problem with, or the hip hop class. I didn't really have that problem with, whereas like I would get bored with the subject matter we were supposed to do. But like a lot of my other classes, even if it was a topic I had previously been interested in, I found myself getting bored just because, I'm forced to do this. I felt like I was being forced to do it instead of what I like to do is kind of learn about it organically on my own time, discover it and things like that.
It could be because like the hip hop classes and like the Malcolm Martin Mandela class, like the other classes are kind of more clear cut, whereas ours, the other two kind of have like nuances to them, and like not everything is clear cut in terms of like how things came to be, especially since we kind of been manipulated to see one way of things through history or whatever.
I think it's also because, especially in my sophomore year, that's when I was really starting to discover Black history and all like everything that was going on and all the things that I was never taught in high school. So I feel like that plays a major part in it too. But yeah, just no more. That's what I'm looking forward to the most is no more school, I hope. I mean, I could always end up going back to grad school, but just like for the moment, just not having to go to school, not having to worry about doing homework and extra things revolving around school, just being able to do what I want more often.
No, for me, honestly, it's crazy because I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted because I know for a fact that like once I graduate, I'm gonna miss the aspect of school because school is a place where like you're enabled to learn, right? It gives you the opportunity to learn. Now, granted, you can learn by yourself, but when you're in a space that like is literally a place for you to learn, it makes it more upfront or whatever. So I think I'm gonna miss being in school, but I can kind of agree with most of your sentiments. I think the thing I'm looking forward to the most is I guess making like my interests and my hobbies kind of like my career at this point. I do want to be involved in healthcare in some way, shape, or form. I do want to be involved in teaching in some way, shape, or form. But like my interest in music, my interest in poetry, my interest in like battle rap and all types of stuff. Like I kind of want to make that like some type of like those hobbies like a career or like at least some type of like side hustle or something.
Which is why I feel like you've been wanting to do a podcast because you can talk about all those things that you want to talk about that you might not be able to do in your everyday life.
Right, because I have so much passion for it. And like and yeah, like when I have passion for something, like I'm usually like so invested, right? And like I feel like obviously having like a full college workload along with like being an athlete, along with being an M.A.Y member, along with being a care team manager and all types of stuff, like there's not that much time allotted for me to like really engage in my hobbies. And then like even in the summertime, like I still have like a little bit of time to engage in it, but I have like an internship to worry about, or I have like, I have to worry about like, okay, what's the next step after I graduate and stuff like that. And I feel like once I like get my footing and like kind of settle into like a job that kind of offers me a little bit of leeway in terms of like being able to like, engage in like my hobbies on like a consistent basis and making like what I love, like making money from stuff that I actually love, which money don't really matter that much to me, but obviously everyone's dream is to like do something that they love and get paid for it. Like,
right.
So I think that's just really the thing. I would love to like start like, along with this podcast, I would love to start like a battle rap podcast. I would love to start like a music review podcast because I've literally been on the wave of like music reviews and stuff since like 2010.
For a long ass time.
2011. Like I follow a bunch of like YouTubers like just because like I love their content. I'll do a plug right now. Dead End Hip Hop. I've been following them since like 2011, and like it's their 10. I want to say it was their 10-year anniversary not too long ago. But Dead End Hip Hop was one. Sean C, somebody that like his music reviews. I've been following him since he was doing like first reactions like with just standing up with like a regular wall behind him or whatever, and now he's a little bit more sophisticated, and it's kind of cool to see like that type of I think that.
Like so I definitely subscribed to him a lot later than you did, but like looking at some of his older videos of where he is now.
I was subscribing to him when like he was starting to listened to Mick Jenkins for the first time, then he listened to Isaiah Rashad for the first time. Then he listened to acid rap for the first time. So you can kind of see like his lineage in terms of like the stuff that he was familiar with and like how his music interest kind of like shifted or like evolved over time. And like seeing stuff like that is pretty dope.
I think the other thing that interests me is just like the maturity you see, especially with his a problem with like certain celebrities that he has. So like he's done Cardi B, he's done think he's done Drake. He's done.
He's done Chance the Rapper, Terry Crews, but he doesn't. He articulates it in a really like organic, like
Right, yeah.
like
So like,
well thought out, methodical way.
he brings up like very good points. Like I always go back to that Drake one because I enjoyed the point where he talks about Pusha T, and he brings it back to the Pusha T diss and how like Drake basically proves everything that Pusha T was saying was right with this one interview because
Oh yeah, our interview we had with Elliot and
because basically he's like you know in your music you talk about how you never wanted to be like a co-parent. Basically you never want to be like a father who has a son outside of like a loving relationship, and how you always want to be there for your son, and like you don't want to be like your dad, but you end up in a way becoming like your dad because you have your child out of wedlock, and you kind of, until like Pusha T really released that, you're kind of absent from his life. You're not really posting him. You're kind of hiding him, trying to hide him in the corner. And so it's like Pusha T is basically like, I don't see why we should give you the respect of trying to be propped up as, you know, this iconic black figure that you want to be. Because he was complaining about how he got like, I think he got artist of like the decade. And he was complaining that, you know, not enough people would celebrate him. He's like, I'm a black,
within the black demographic,
right? And within the black,
yeah,
within the black demographic. And the reason why he wasn't is because it's a couple things. One, he doesn't really talk about those issues in his music or in his personal life. Well, I'm not gonna say his personal life, but like in interviews or anything. And you don't really see him doing anything like that. Now, granted, in that interview, he talks about how he doesn't like, you know, he likes to do that stuff and not really post it, which I feel like is still kind of bullshit at the end of the day. I feel like he might be doing some, but I feel like he's not doing nearly as much as he could or as much as he's trying to say he does. And then the other thing is just how, like, if you look at how he, again, with his whole father dynamic and him being a father, how he's kind of repeating the sins of his father that he didn't enjoy and kind of adding on to that stereotype of black men being poor fathers. It's like, well, it makes sense.
Well, yeah. I mean, from the outside looking in, it can appear that way. We don't fully know.
That's what I'm saying. We don't know, like, but I'm just saying that's how it looks to me.
The kid is like 3 years old now or whatever, so the whole dynamic probably changed.
Definitely, it's definitely changed now, but
and around that time, but like,
when
he made that video, like it most definitely was like, but no, stuff like that is like just stuff I'm interested in. Like, I love to like talk about music. Like, I talk about music with y'all all the time in the house or whatever. So if I was to able to like create a YouTube video and talk about it in a way that, you know, is respected or whatever, you know, that would be dope. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm actually gonna work on a documentary about the rise of like some of my favorite artists. Obviously, Cole's on there. I'm most definitely gonna do a documentary about that, even though he probably has like a plethora of documentaries. But I'm most definitely gonna do that because I feel like I have like a perspective of Cole that's kind of different than everybody else's. Just because like I feel like when people think of him, they think of like their story starts from when.
A lot of people start their story
when he first moved to New York and like dropped the warm up and stuff like that or whatever. But that's probably like that's a good portion. But a lot of them start with like when he like was signed under Jay-Z and like he released Cold World, the Sideline Story, and then released the singles. And then there's a bunch that just start when like he released a 2014 Forest Hills Drive, which I don't feel like is you're not getting the right aspect of like his growth as an artist. But
I feel like that's the pinnacle of his career, though.
Commercially, yeah. But no, I think there's a lot of stuff that needs to be uncovered. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that both the newer generation, the older generation don't understand when it comes to Cole. Like, the newer generation don't understand it. Like, he's in terms of like rap skill. We're not talking about all the other stuff that come with it. In terms of rap skill, I wouldn't say that he still has like a lyrical prowess, but like he's no different. I wouldn't say no different because that kind of puts like a negative connotation on it. But he is not outer worldly compared to other lyricists that's been doing it for like 20 plus years. And then for the older generation, I don't think you should say that like he's underrated just because of the praise that he's getting from the newer generation. Because let's be real, the older generation, who they deem as like their best, is like the people that come from their generation. So we're gonna do the same. So I just feel like there's a whole bunch of stuff that like we can kind of touch on to kind of make things, I don't know, whatever. But that's what I'm interested in. Like when I graduate, bro, like, and when we do this, like when we damn near do this on like a full-time gig or whatever, and like let's say we get like I'm manifesting it. Let's say we get like a publishing deal or something like that where we can just do podcasts and make money off of it or whatever. Shit, I most definitely love to do that.
I feel like so. You know how Joe Budden he once he had to deal with Spotify, but now he's kind of broken off. He's doing his own thing, and now
Right.
like on his YouTube channel instead of the Joe Budden podcast,
Right.
is like the Joe Budden Network where he'll post like his podcast, and then I forget what the name of their podcast is, but it's like three ladies. I feel like I could see you doing something similar to that in terms of like making a YouTube channel that's like just this network of just a combination of things that you want to do.
Yeah. Nah. The only thing that I don't, or the only thing I'm kind of like skeptical about in terms of doing that is just like all the BS that kind of comes with like being like famous or YouTube famous. Like, yeah, they don't like they don't treat like people on YouTube do not treat you like you're a human being, especially if you're like a person that has like 100K subscribers. Like, it's just kind of weird. Like, I don't know. That's the only thing. But that's part of it though. That's like, you know.
I think that I know we're going kind of off kill, but we're like this is what topic 3.
Yeah, and we got one
so
more.
I was about to say we're only at 30 minutes, so I feel like we can carry this one on a little while, especially since our first topic didn't take that long. But that reminds me about Malcolm X. I forget what like TV show interview this was, but he was talking about how like we shouldn't count on celebrities to be like leaders because at the end of the day they're gonna care about their profit and everything, and they're like, especially in the black community, whereas like we'll lean on celebrities to try to be these leaders and everything, whereas in white communities you don't necessarily see that. Like you don't see people trying to push Justin Bieber really be like this role model figure and everything like that, but you'll see that with like people like LeBron James or especially like athletes or like rappers too, with like Candace Owens always attacking Cardi B, saying she should be a role model, when I feel like that's bullshit, because one, Cardi B's target audience isn't these children that Candace Owens is talking about she's ruining. That's not her target audience. And so if it's not her target audience, that's not who she's trying to reach. I feel like it's not her fault for the kids seeing it. That's on the parents. That's on the people who are allowing their kids to get access to it. It's not Cardi B's fault, because Cardi B is targeting her music for a very certain group of people, a very certain demographic. And if you're worried about your kids seeing it, you shouldn't be blaming her, or like Candace Owens talking about how she's ruining American culture, which I think is bullshit. I think Candace Owens is filled with a lot of bullshit. I think she tries to do a lot of smart things and she tries to seem very smart, but I think at the end of the day,
it just backfires.
It's a lot of backfiring. It shows her
ignorance more than it shows
that's what I'm saying.
She is.
So like when she talks about how like black people don't have to be Democrats, like I fuck with that idea of, you know, black people have fallen to the trap of just voting Democrat every year because of the Civil Rights Act, and they just vote Democrat every year without ever thinking about the candidates and everything. And I'm like, okay, I fuck with that point. But then she turns around and says we should be Republican. We should just vote Republican. She keeps trying to get more black people to be Republican. I'm like, well, now you're missing. You're basically saying don't do it for this side, do it for this side. I'm saying like you're basically saying do the same thing, just do it with a different party. And since I'm doing it with a different party, I'm quote unquote smarter than everybody else. And I feel like that's very stupid, because you're telling people basically to do the same thing, and you're doing the same thing they're doing, just a different party. When really we have to understand, which, you know, that's what Malcolm X understood, that's what Martin Luther King understood, that's what all these great black figures have understood. That's what I feel like a lot of the people that I'm friends with understand, is that these politicians don't give a fuck about black people or the color of your skin, or really the middle class, to be honest. They only will bring like middle class problems or like black people's problems up when it's time for them to get elected, and they're like, okay, you know, let's get the black vote. And then after that, after I get the black vote, I'm not going to do anything I said. And that's just how this country is structured. That's just how it's always been. And to try to say, you know, we should vote Republican because Democrats haven't gotten this anywhere, I feel like that's losing the point, because we were voting Republican before the 1965 Civil Rights Act and Voting Acts and all this stuff, and we still won't getting anywhere. And so that's when I feel like she looks like an ass, because it's like you start off good and then you finish bad, because you're basically telling people to do the same thing that they're doing now, just flip it. And that's so stupid to me. But that goes back to me, and especially with the black community, just realizing that you can't count on celebrities in general to be role models or like leaders in your community, because at the end of the day,
Because very seldom do they actually.
that's what
end
I'm
up
saying.
being
That's
great leaders.
like
Yeah.
like what song is it? I think it's Jesus Walks. What Kanye's like, we rappers aren't role models. We rap, we don't think.
I don't know.
I
if
think he
that's-
says we rappers are role models. We rap, we don't think. I think that's Jesus.
I mean,
Walks.
but sometimes, like, so it's actually a paradox because like there's rap, but like I wouldn't say paradox, but it's a situation where like sometimes rappers do want that responsibility, but then like when it's really time to take that responsibility, they don't want it.
No,
I
understand,
because
but
they
I think
understand that like their status or whatever, like they're painting a picture to.
no, I get that.
You know?
So like the Kendrick Lamar is just somebody I feel like is a celebrity who you could look at to as a leader and a role model, just because of not only the stuff he talks about, but the fact that he's been involved in some ground roots movements in places like South Africa. I said grassroots movements in like places like South Africa, and he basically moved back to Compton because he's trying to change that neighborhood around, because he understands it's a dichotomy, because you want to make it out that community, because that community is so starved of opportunity that anytime somebody finds an opportunity, a lot of the times they get killed. But at the same time, it's those people who leaving and taking the ability to bring opportunities away from that community that also hurt it. So he understands that if he really wants to turn around, he has to stay in his community or close enough to his community where he can have a positive effect on it. But like just yelling at Cardi B, expecting her to be a role model because she has a platform in the audience to be a role model and a leader, I feel like is stupid. And I feel like a lot of people fall into that trap, which is why, again, you would say you would feel weird about it, because people begin to idolize you and look to you to be this leader, and
Right.
you're not necessarily saying that's what I'm doing here. You're just here just because you enjoy this. You enjoy this activity that you're doing.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and I feel like honestly, we do say that like sorry, pardon me, I'm trying to.
You're fine.
Yeah, but we do say that like people like people of color who do have a platform should make it their responsibility to do
Which
so.
I feel that's stupid. I feel like, because at the end of the day, you can't force. It's two things for me. One, you can't force somebody to be a leader if they don't want to be a leader, if they're not somebody that can lead, because not everybody can be a leader. And then it's the other thing is, I feel like in terms of these movements, it's not the celebrities whose job it is to lead. It's the everyday person, the person that's like you and me, whose job it is to lead.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, but like, I don't know. I do feel like there is merit behind like a person like a LeBron James taking the due diligence.
No. I'm not
saying.
I'm not saying there's not good sides to it. Like, I understand it. Like, LeBron is the platform that LeBron has, and what he's been doing with it is amazing. I wish other celebrities would do such things, but I'm just saying I don't think we should expect.
You don't feel like there should be that much like pressure.
Like we should, we shouldn't place the responsibility on them to be leaders in their community just because they have the ability to. We shouldn't have to try to put that responsibility on them, because that's not, a lot of the times that's not what they're asking to do or signing up for.
Right. Yeah.
But if you want to go ahead and do it, I have no problem with it.
Right. Nah.
It's just that I feel like we just try to put too much emphasis, especially in the black community and black celebrities. We try to put too much emphasis on, oh, you have to do this. You have to be about your community. You have to be a leader. And it's like, it reminds me of the interview with Dr. Umar, where he's talking about like the average day, it's the job of people like who are average day people to lead. And the people like Jay-Z are really there to provide like the money and the economic means to keep the movements going. And I'm like, that makes more sense to me. Like, I can see that happening. But even then, I still don't want to put that kind of responsibility on those people either, because at the end of the day, they didn't sign up for it. But I feel like if I were to begin my party and we start picking up a whole bunch of traction and everything, I feel like I could reach out to LeBron James or Jay-Z and be like, hey, we're doing something great. I would love I would invest money into this so we can keep it going, keep it growing, keep it popping and everything like that. So I feel like that's the way that that's probably the most effective way that celebrities can be involved in like these movements instead of having to make them try to be leaders.
Yeah, I feel like it should be their own type of like self initiative.
Yeah,
if they want to
definitely
do it, for sure. So we kind of on the last topic. The last topic. Well, before we get into the last topic,
this last topic about to be long as hell. So.
Yeah, before we get into the last topic, we just want to give you might want to press the applause button. We want to give a shout out to Nas for winning his first Grammy. Nas is heralded as one of the best rappers ever. One of.
Who do you think won that? I mean, I know we're about to get into the topic. But who you think won that beef between Nas and Jay-Z from a pure lyrical standpoint?
Pure lyrical standpoint. It's like
pure bars. Who gave who more bars? I think
Nas off the strength that it was a whole song.
I think Nas gave him more bars.
Like, now I personally would go because like me and Professor Marshall, Nate Marshall, whatever. We had like a 5-minute exchange about it, but we didn't really get into it. So he said Jay-Z won, and I was like, he kind of won in the sense of like. If you look
at where their careers are right now,
he kind of won in that regard. But in terms of like, if you were just if you're just looking at that particular moment at that time, Nas won. Like, but if it was at the same time, it's
if it was like, hold on, I'm sorry for cutting you off. No, like if it was like a rap battle per se, like Nas would win. But in terms of like how their careers have turned out and everything, looking back on it now, you can definitely say Jay-Z won.
It's circumstantial because like. Well, it's weird because a lot of people talk about like, okay, Takeover, then Ether, but they don't talk about Super Ugly afterwards where like Jay-Z went completely over the line and like he had to like scale back and say he was wrong for releasing that. So like it's a lot of stuff that goes into it, but I'm looking at it from the standpoint like Jay-Z dedicated a verse and some change to Nas or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Whereas like Nas dedicated like I don't even remember how long the track is, but it felt super long. But like he dedicated a lengthy song towards strictly Jay-Z or whatever. Now, a lot of people, you know what I'm saying, have this whole thing about, well, Jay-Z was more factual. He was talking numbers and all this type of stuff. I'm like, in a rap battle, it's the object is to make your opponent look stupid, look weak, regardless of if it's true or not. And if you get that, if you accomplish that, now granted, having truth and having facts most definitely make it a plus. But if you accomplish that like to a higher level than your opponent does, then you won. And I feel you can tell, and the reason you can tell that Nas won because Jay-Z felt like he had to like, all right, like on Super Ugly, he felt like he had to go to the super duper extreme to like redeem himself. So you can kind of tell that like Nas won in that regard. But yeah, honestly, like I feel like that was one of the last times where a beef happened and it didn't really like feel like anything extreme was gonna happen. I just felt like they was gonna keep it at rap, and I appreciate that the most. But yeah, shout out to Nas for winning a Grammy for King's Disease. Now the crazy thing about this is that I listened to King's Disease. I thought it was a cool album, but it's obviously like it's kind of hard for you to top like your best work, especially since Nas is where he is right now in terms of like being like on the back end of his career for the most part. You know what I'm saying? Like. It was a good album, and like I'm happy he got a Grammy for it. I just wish he had got a Grammy for like an album that was one of my favorites. Like if you got a Grammy for like Untitled or something like that, it came out in like '08 or whatever, or something like that. That would have been more of a
like Stillmatic.
I don't think he would have got a Grammy for Stillmatic because they was barely like giving like.
I'm not saying I'm not saying he would have got one. I'm saying like if he had got a quality,
yeah.
Like
if he had like
kind of quality,
if he had got like a Grammy for that or whatever, that would have been dope too. But just him getting his flowers and just him being able to like, you know, get a Grammy, even though like we as like the black audience say Grammys don't matter, they do and they don't. It's circumstantial too in that regard because it's like on one hand they don't, but like if it's a major feat for like someone to get a Grammy knowing that like they always try to like, you know what I'm saying, like give us like, you know what I'm saying, not a fair shake when it comes to rap music. Or like they always try to like lean towards like what's more commercially appealing or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So like if someone like a Kendrick or someone that is actually making great music actually does get a Grammy, then that's a win for us. But the overall like, you know what I'm saying, like the merit behind the Grammys don't matter.
I think the reason why people say Grammys don't matter is because oftentimes the Grammys and like public opinion will get it wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like you've gotten to the point where we feel like they don't matter because the voting system is kind of fraud. There's a little bit of rigging in it,
right? And we don't know.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
and there's some politics involved in it. But The reason why it does matter is because at the end of the day, it's the same thing with like Oscars for movies. That's the most prestigious award as an artist that you can get. Like that's an award that holds the most merit in your career.
Your price go up when you get one.
That's
if
what
you're
I'm saying.
Grammy nominated or if you're like you win a Grammy, your price goes up. Like
that's what I'm saying.
And the thing about the Grammys is like
it's a prestige to it.
And this gonna be very controversial, but the reason why I still think we should have the Grammys around is because like and I feel like we should also have the BET Awards around, but Cole had a line about it, but I ain't gonna say the specific line. But he pretty much was saying that like the BET Awards is great to have, but the dichotomy with the BET Awards is it acknowledges like black people and like the work that they put in, but it kind of excludes them from the rest of the work of the world, if that makes sense. So winning BET Award is great, but like when it's just only like black people that you're winning amongst and not like the overall,
it kind of
exactly
it diminishes.
Right.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Right. So that's why I feel like we should still have both. And I feel like we should still herald both as the same. Because I remember like the BET Awards used to be like a grand thing. And now it's just like, I mean,
kind of like a sideshow. It's like it's like a stepping stone to the Grammys.
Yeah, like it's kind of sad because like I remember Nicki Minaj won like the best female artist like 4 or 5 years in a row or something like that, and like that like people, you know what I'm saying, like were very, very happy about that. And now it just seemed like it's just like some type of participation trophy, and I don't feel like it should be that. But I do think that like, you know what I'm saying, that we've been saying this for years. Like the Grammy, the infrastructure of the Grammys has to change in one way, shape, or form, because I feel like there's no way in the world that like, because I want to say in 2017, 2018 or whatever, like hip hop was named the #1 genre in the country. So there's no way.
And there's never a hip hop album for album of the year.
Or a full hip hop album.
I think what kills me is, so I was watching this video, this dude was going through the Grammys and like the albums that won like album of the year, and he was going through like, this what really opened my eyes to it is the fact that he was going through like, so he had like a 3 rating system. He had what the average score the critics gave it, the average score fans gave it, and then he took those 2 scores and averaged it out for overall.
Right.
And what you find is a lot of the projects that are nominated for like album of the year are not even the highest rated albums that came out that year from both critics and fans. And oftentimes when there are higher ones that win, they usually go to somebody else because it's kind of like a popularity contest in some ways. Yeah. So like how Taylor Swift just won it for her last album.
It was 1989 or something. Yeah,
that album wasn't that good. From what I've heard about it, it wasn't that good. And it goes back to, so when Kendrick released "To Pimp a Butterfly," was that
it was around the
I'm saying was that nominated for album of the year for a Grammy?
I don't remember
because
it might have been. It might have been. I know you. I know for a fact
I don't think it was. I know he won rap album of the year, but the point is like that's one of the most highly rated albums like in terms of music ever.
Yeah,
and it didn't win that year. Like that was the highest rated one of that year, and Bruno Mars's 24 Karat Magic one, and that's like 8 songs.
I got
and that was like.
I'm gonna look.
Like the score that had compared to what To Pimp a Butterfly had, like 24 Karat Magic in his like rating scale had, I think it had like its overall average rating was like a 7.4, I think, and then The Pimp a Butterflies was in the 9. So it's like
24 Karat Magic might have been a little bit that was probably around Damn.
No.
You were just okay. You were just
actually I think. Yeah. It is around Damn, actually.
Yeah, it was around Damn.
But I think Damn isn't... the same shit happened with Damn. Damn is also one of the more highly rated albums. Right. And it was probably the most high rated... The most high. Oh, my God. The highest rated album that came out that year, and it lost to Bruno Mars that year. You're right. But again, the same thing with To Pimp a Butterfly. It also lost that year, and it was the highest rated album that came out that year in this dude's scale that he was doing. And
Kendrick, to their credit though, Kendrick had the most awards with 5, and he had the most nominations with 11.
That's fair. So Dan could have won all 11, to be honest.
But I agree with that. I just feel like we're making strides because like but the only thing is though is like. What I really felt bad about the Grammys this year is that like the rap albums that made like they got nominated or whatever. These are guys that, you know what I'm saying, that like don't really get that much recognition. So like people called like they called it trash because like a lot of the people, well, 2020 was a weird year. Yeah, right. A lot of people that you don't know.
Whereas just
OGs or like, you know what I'm saying?
Even though their music was actually good quality, yeah.
But it's just, 2020 was a weird year in terms of music anyway. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, no, I just felt bad that like those guys that got nominated, like it was another year of like Grammys don't matter. And in this situation, I felt like the people that they had for the Grammy nominations were actually like, they had Royce, they had Freddie, they had Nas, like they had people that were actually released good music.
Yeah, I don't think Nas should have won the Grammy for it this year. I feel like this is definitely more because, his stature, but especially since his best album, which is Illmatic's first album, right?
Yes, 1994.
Yeah, that's his best album, which is Friday. And his best album is his first. It kind of reminds me of Drake and how Drake's best albums are like at the beginning of his career when he starts releasing them. But I feel like it's just because he couldn't have won a Grammy for that because that came out like a year before they started giving the award out. I feel like they were like, damn, we have to give this man a Grammy just because of the respect that he has in that hip hop community. Which I feel like is bullshit, but hey.
Yeah. Nah. But anyway, we touched on that topic because the last topic that we have is going to be a long, drawn-out conversation that I've been wanting to have for a long time, still hip-hop oriented. This topic is 2000s hip-hop versus 2010s hip-hop. Now, one thing that I've had to not understand, but one thing that I had to like keep in mind is that like, even though
my bad, y'all.
Even though like, you know what I'm saying, like we literally we're ushering ourselves into like a whole new decade in terms of 2020s, and like we don't know what the next wave of hip hop or what the next wave of music is going to be. Like you can just look at the transitions that we've made in the 2010s, like what music sounded like in like 2012, 2013 or whatever is nothing to what it was sounding like in like 2016. Like that was a whole year in itself where like a new wave of music came in. But the point I'm trying to get to is that earlier I talked about like this divide between like the older generation and the newer generation when it comes to hip hop. And right, like even though I consider myself more of a traditionalist when it comes to hip hop, I still can acknowledge like things and like things that influence the structure, the culture of hip hop, and like the things that are like, you know, that should get a good amount of recognition. But I want you to tell me if you have to choose the generation of 2000s hip hop, or I shouldn't say generation because that's a whole nother
eras.
But yeah, if you were to choose like 2000s hip hop or 2010 hip hop or the hip hop in 2010, which one are you choosing or going with?
When you asked that at first, I was going to say the 2000s, but then I had to think that means we don't have Kendrick. I think that also means we don't get My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy because that came out in 2010.
Okay, but here's the thing, like, yes, but at the same time, like somebody like a Kanye who's like is dabbled in like both decades.
That's what I'm saying.
Had like his best work in the 2000s though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying though. But I also feel like then we don't get. I'm probably gonna go with the 2010s just because that's when I really started listening to the hip hop for one, and that's really when I was really of age to really start understanding the subject matter better. And I feel like that's when music was releasing that I can really tie to memory. So like 2014 Forest Hills Drive, I can remember bumping "Get Off My Dick" in the hallways, just watching. I said watch, just walking around in the hallways during school and between classes, bumping that song. And so I think that's why, because I feel like I have more memories tied to the 2010s, just because that's the decade that I really grew up in a sense.
Yeah, for me, it's gonna be a surprise to some of my roommates, but I'm going with 2010s too. Not because
I knew you would.
Not because like, you know what I'm saying, like it's not. Well, I wouldn't even say recency bias, but it's not just because like that's like my generation or whatever. But when I look at 2000s hip hop, there's great albums, you know, great. But like I also look at like, you got to think that like when the 90s was such a great decade, that the 2000s they were kind of like stumbling. They were kind of like stumbling into like a new whatchamacallit. So and like that was around the time that like,
because if we think of the 2000s, it's only really like maybe 3, 4, 5 artists who are really.
It was actually it was a fair share of artists.
I'm saying who were like really at the top of the game doing their thing. Which like when I think of 2000s hip hop, I think of Eminem, Lil Wayne, Kanye, and Jay-Z. Those are the top 4 names that come to my opinion.
And Gang. I mean, they do have some,
But I mean, yes, I understand that there are more people in that, but I'm saying in terms of like the top 4, that's who I feel like the top 4 from that decade. It was most definitely a
rough patch there. And you also got to look at like a lot of the radio music wasn't great. They talk about the radio music now, but like the radio music in the 2000s.
Hey, all I know is if it was Kanye on that shit, it was great.
But and I also there was a lot of 2000s music that was like more dance oriented, which makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, like, definitely.
There was a bunch of
That's why I think it's hard because you have you got Soulja Boy in the 2000s with oh my god,
you had a bunch of like dance oriented songs.
You had the Jerk, you had the Dougie.
You didn't mention Outkast though. Because they did have like
that's fair too.
They had like 3 albums that were really good in the 90s, but they had like 2. I want to say they had what they
most of Stankonia and Speaker Box,
The Love Below,
are definitely their 2 biggest albums. Those came out in 2002. But I guess I was thinking in terms of more individual, and I don't really think of Outkast as like individuals. Despite that, a lot of people in the hip hop community, especially if you go on Twitter, will basically try to seem like Andre 3000 was like the main part of the group and Big Boy was just kind of there. No, they were both spitting and they're both integral parts of that group.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting is that Andre 3000 feels like, even though everybody knows that listen to rap music, he's not trash. He's like one of the greatest MCs to ever touch the mic, one of the greatest musicians I feel like to ever grace the earth. He don't feel that way. He feel like he ass. And like he talks about how like he'll make music, he makes all this music and he won't release it because he feels like nobody's going to like it, which I feel like it's ridiculous because he's too talented.
But I think the other reason why I lean towards 2010s is I just have to lean towards it because like that's when we really hit an era where like there's subgenres of hip hop, and there's like what I'm saying, like there's so much. It's a blessing and a curse because there's so much like music to consume, and this is also like the time period where like technology is pretty much having an uproar where like people are just able to release music whenever they feel like, what I'm saying? Like, remember in 2013? I want to say 2013 or 2014. I don't know what year. But Beyonce was one of the first to release an album without no promotion. Remember when she released Beyonce without no promotion or anything like that? And what's wrong?
I'm sorry. So, I was taking March Madness shit. Syracuse just beat West Virginia. And Rutgers is beating Houston right now by 2, but it's like a minute left in the game.
I'm never surprised when it comes to March Madness because it's always some like.
I mean, no. I understand there's always some upsets, but like if you've been paying attention to the tournament, the amount of upsets that have been happening this year is fucking crazy.
But like this the first year with like the first year after COVID or whatever. So like. I don't know. That's
fair, but I still think because like Illinois lost today.
Yeah, they lost to
Loyola, which was shocking. I didn't think Illinois.
But they did. Lose. Loyola did good.
Loyola is a very good team.
Yeah. Like in March Madness, like a while, like a couple years ago.
I didn't really think like again like if you just look at the seedings, like West Virginia just lost. Sure. West Virginia is a 3 seed. They just lost. Rutgers is a 10 seed. They're about to be the 2 seed. From what it looks like, everything holds up. I'm sorry for cutting you off, but you can go ahead and continue.
I just look at like 2010s in terms of like being very diverse in terms of music. And then like, I don't know. I feel like the people in 2010s like have created so many lanes to where like you can like, if you don't like one particular artist, you don't really have to complain because there's a multitude of other artists that are out there that like make music that is like pseudo boom bap or like traditional, as people call it, or whatever. Then I don't know. I just feel like 2010s is just very diverse, and then you gotta also take into account that they're like in 2010 there's plenty of older artists that came back and released like great music. Like Tribe Called Quest released an album in 2016 that was dope. We got it for here. Thank you for your service. We got it from here or something. Or we got it from here. Thank you for your service or whatever. Great album. Jay-Z released a great album in 444 in 2017. Nas released a great album in a good album in 2012 with Life is Good.
Right.
I'm trying to think of other artists that released. Like a bunch of artists released good music in the 2010s that were from that 90s 2000s era. So I mean, I don't know. Like I feel like 2000 in terms of like if the 90s was like because they call the 80s like the golden era, but like the 90s is they call the 80s the golden era in terms of like how it like began to form and like how to
I don't know if there's
but like the 90s is like go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the 90s and the 2010s kind of mirror each other in terms of the aspect of like it opening up so many lanes for artists to like do different stuff. Like, so that's just my opinion.
I think the whole notion of there being a golden age in hip hop is kind of. I feel like I don't think that exists.
They say golden age like so it depends because like some people use golden age in terms of like the best whatchamacallit, and then other people
best quality was
but some people use it for the standpoint of like the foundational like.
Yeah, but like, I don't. So I don't feel like I found. This is just me. I don't feel like I found out a foundational period can ever be the golden age.
I'm just saying how they coined it or whatever.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so like I feel like I think that's stupid. But if there was anything close to a golden age, it would be now, just because you have all these different avenues in which you can rap. And sure, rap isn't what it used to be, and lyrical rap might not be as valued as it once was.
Yeah.
But I feel like trying to say like the 80s or the 90s was the golden age of hip hop is more of a. I feel like that's more of a not being in touch with the times or trying to not accept.
Right.
The change was. I mean, I can understand if you prefer that type of music, but to try to say like that's when the best hip hop music was made, I think that's giving it a little bit too much credit, because I think, like in my opinion, if you look at like the top 5 hip hop albums, a lot of them came like a decent to me. So, in my opinion, I think the top 5 hip hop albums. Not necessarily in this order, but I think it's To Pimp a Butterfly. I think of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I think of Stankonia. I think that's up there. What I'm at 3. And like I do think of Illmatic in that sense. I think that's somewhere in the top 5.
You don't put Marshall Mathers in there?
I don't know if I am.
Okay. Because I know a lot of people like herald that as like. Well, I don't know if they say top 5, but they most definitely say like that's one of the best.
Yeah,
sure.
I want to say, because I'm stuck on 2. I'm stuck on the first Blueprint from Jay-Z, because I feel like that should be up in that conversation. Unless I'm thinking the wrong one.
Because it's crazy because
so the first Blueprint, that's the cover where it's like this blue tint and he's sitting somewhere smoking a cigar and has like Song Cry on there.
That was around the same time that Nas and him had to be.
Yeah, definitely.
That's one of my favorite. That's one of my dad's favorite albums, and that's one of my favorite albums.
I'm between that one and then something like a Damn or a Good Kid, Mad City.
So you got 2 Kendrick. It's kind of like, here's the thing. Like I usually when in that situation like
or
that,
All Eyes on Me too, because that I feel like that's a great album too.
Yeah, thank you. I was about to say, when it comes to an artist having like a bunch of albums that are like really really like classic, I usually go with the best one. And I scatter out the rest for the sake of.
But I'm saying, I'm not necessarily.
Because it's really interchangeable.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying he does. I'm just saying, like, I feel like there are very few rappers ever that have like at least 2 albums in conversation for top 5, and I feel like Kendrick is one of those.
Yeah.
So like to say like again in my list, to say that the 90s is the golden age of hip hop, but in my list, at least definitively the top 3 came after like the 80s and the 90s.
Right.
Is kind of, I feel like that's sort of trying to dismiss it.
Yeah, I mean the thing is though is like, okay,
I understand why though, because of music like Future make and
but to that point, But to that point, it's like Kendrick's an interesting case because it's to the point where like he'll have 3 like. It's a weird thing because like he has like 3 classics, right? But it's like people choose like one over the other. And so by nature, when they choose one over the other, they kind of diminish like the classic value that the others have, if that makes sense. Like they don't hold them at the same. They just say, oh, well, this is more like, greater than the other one. So the other one is a classic, but you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's kind of hard to like, it's kind of hard to do that. So I don't know. But I agree with that. Like I feel like when you look at like music that transcends hip hop, you gotta look at the 2010s. Like you do.
Right.
Like this past decade, there's like and it's not just like mumble rap as we quoted it or whatever. It's not just boom bap rap or whatever. Like it's so many lanes, bro. Like just so many lanes. Like I don't know. It's so and the thing is, it's like so many great artists, and you got to think a lot of those 2010s rappers that we deem as like the best, like cut from the cloth of like the 2000s, the 90s or whatever.
Right, definitely, yeah.
So and they maybe just got like somebody like 2 Chainz or whatever. He really got popular in the 2010s, but he was with Wayne since like the 2000s, like. So I don't know. It is kind of weird, but like I personally go with the 2010s just because like just the overall like diversity and like the depth of the music and like how much music there is out there and the range of music.
Yeah,
too,
the variety.
Like, but like I still what I'm saying, give it up to the 2000s like and whatnot. But I was gonna say 1990s versus 2010s, but I feel like that was too much of a that's too much of a controversial.
Too much of a jump.
Yeah. Like.
And I would still go 2010s anyways. I think I'm taking 20.
I have to think a little bit harder.
I think I'm taking 2010s over everything, but again, I feel like that's part of that is just bias.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm trying to consider the
in.
whole thing.
Yeah,
and like for me, it's just like I don't know. Like when I look at like the 90s, it's just like too many dynamic, too many already solidified legends in that decade.
Right.
So that's why we probably have to have this conversation. Like we'll probably have to have this conversation like another 10, 20 years from now.
That's fair. I mean, okay, so I guess I can put a nice little spin on this topic since we're talking about like there's like you were talking about how there's 2 legends that come from the 90s. I guess
I said multiple. Like,
no, I know I'm saying, but like okay, so I guess what I'm trying to say is when you think of an era, like each era of hip hop, so each decade, like from the 80s to the 90s to the 2000s and the 2010s, I guess I just basically like for each decade, what are like 2 to 4 artists that you think of from that decade that you feel like
pick,
yeah, that's what I'm saying, that you
90s,
feel like really define that decade. That's
the point I'm trying to make. In the 90s, it's a lot harder.
Definitely.
Because it's 2010s, even though everybody like is making great music in terms of you can only like you can still like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's why I'm saying like it's kind of hard to say like it's an easy pick from the 90s and the 2010s because you can literally say like in the 2010s you can probably pick 5. In the 90s you have to like
that's fair.
You know,
but let me well, for the 80s, I feel like it's a little easier to pick. But for 80s, instead of saying like individuals, I feel like in the 80s, rap groups were definitely the people who had more of an influence in the 80s. Because if you like, when I think of 80s hip hop, I think of, even though they're on the tail end, I think of NWA. I think
DMC.
of like Ice-T.
But like when you look at the 80s too, you still have LL Cool J.
That's what I'm saying.
Big Daddy Kane, you still got KRS, you still got
but I'm saying like you have like
Rakim,
like that's what I'm saying, like Wu-Tang Clan and stuff, like that's what I'm saying.
90s though.
I mean, but you know, they're like really late 80s.
Early 90s.
They didn't come. Oh, okay. I was thinking like 89.
No. Into the 36 Chambers came out, I want to say 93.
Okay, yeah, but like.
Yeah. And then
I feel like the 80s is a time for like.
It's just like that's why I say like the 90s is like literally.
So again, like for the 80s, I basically gave 2. I think I said Ice-T and like MWA because like I don't know why, but like 80s hip hop, I don't
know, bro. I think you gotta say Rakim.
I'm saying just for me.
Okay.
Rakim too, because I said before. I think Rakim too.
It's
yeah,
Rakim,
definitely,
bro. Like
I think Rakim is like somebody that really starts opening up like what
rhyme structure.
Yeah, exactly. What artists are able to do with rhyme structure.
Yeah, and some people say Slick Rick because of storytelling. Like some people say put Slick Rick in that conversation.
I think
LL gets a nod because of his commercially accessible music. Like LL is,
and we didn't even touch about Will Smith.
But yeah,
I was about to say. I think you have to mention
Will
just
Smith
because
more 90s though.
Yeah, definitely. I think you have to. I still think you have to mention Will Smith
because of like he's one
especially
of the few
when you start talking
like
about hip hop, right?
Hip hop crossover.
Not to mention also just in terms of his historical importance is that he has the first ever Grammy for hip hop,
right.
Which you know you can't. Like, at the end of the day, you can't tell the story of hip hop without him.
Yeah, but
no matter how corny I find his music to be.
But yeah, so like for 2010s or 80s, I guess I go on the same tip in terms of like who I would pick out of there.
Like 80s, like I feel like there's two certain like entities that have to be.
You said 3 or 4 though.
No, I'm saying you can pick 3 or 4. I'm saying there are two who I feel like you can't argue, like you have to include. And I feel like NWA is for sure one, just because gangster rap literally starts picking up in the late 80s.
Well, they released 89, so like pretty much.
That's what I'm saying, like real late 80s.
Into the 90s for
and
sure.
And then people like Rakim, because just how
he was rhyming.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Just how he was able to change the landscape of what a rapper can do with his rhymes. Because a lot of rappers before him were like very basic. They're like, I think of like Dr. Dre. In terms of like how basic the rhymes are, like they're really telltale. Really out, like they're not really out there. It's not too creative. Whereas Rakim,
well, it wouldn't be Dr. Dre. It would be like somebody like
no. I'm not saying Dr. Dre is responsible for it, but I'm saying his style of rapping is like basically the same type of style that they were.
Yeah, somebody like a I'm trying to think.
But like I feel like those are the two, like you literally, well, maybe Ice-T too, just because Cop Killer is such a historical song in the hip hop community as well. It's hard.
Yeah, in the 90s, like
in the 90s, Tupac and Biggie have to be there. Like you can't talk about the 90s without them.
Question. And like
I think it's so if we're doing 4, it's hard to pick another 2 outside of them. Like it's like two of the 4 are already solved because of them.
It's like okay, like
because you have Wu-Tang.
Yeah, you have Wu-Tang, you have Outkast,
you got Snoop Dogg.
You have Snoop Dogg. People,
you got Dr. Dre.
People don't put enough respect. Well, Dr. Dre is more of a producer.
I mean, I understand that, but I'm thinking of albums like The Chronic.
But Snoop Dogg was a huge part of The Chronic, though. That's what I
exactly. That's why. That's also like Snoop Dogg is big.
Snoop, it's just so many. Like then don't forget like Big L, Big Pun. Like it's so many like great like. Lauren came out at that time. Like
that's what I'm saying.
It's like that's what I'm saying. That's the point I was trying to make. I was like the reason why like if we were to have discussion of 2010s and the 90s, like what
that would just come down
the
to
debate
preference.
will just come down. It'll be preference because it's like okay, 2010s they might have more depth, sort of, but like. The 90s highs are very high. Like they have people, they have like a plethora of people that are like solidified.
Not to mention the 90s is really when hip hop really starts to really take off in popularity.
Yeah.
Although it's more popular than it's ever been now.
Yeah.
For the 2000s, I mean, I already named the 4 people I feel like you have to talk about in the 2000s, which is Jay-Z, Kanye, Eminem, and Lil Wayne. You could argue some other people. Like Nas, I think is somebody you have to talk about the 90s too, just because of Illmatic.
It's crazy because like 50 Cent was huge in the 2000s.
He was very huge, but I don't think he's as okay. I don't think because like I think part of the discussion is the inspiration, like on future generations,
right?
And even though 50 was big,
Lil Wayne is late 2000s.
That's what I'm saying, but like. Just the impact that he had in those late 2000s, I think is very heavy.
Don't get me wrong; he was most definitely like he was around.
He deserves to be. Yeah, he deserves to be in this discussion.
But in terms of like his like when he really start like so I'm thinking Carter 2 released 05.
Right.
I think so. That was when he really was like. But I'm saying like I don't know. Like if you were to ask who was bigger in 2005, 50 or Lil Wayne. Might go with 50.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I'm just thinking in terms of like because
Lil Wayne kind of kept the popularity going into the next decade.
That and just your impact on the culture. I feel even though like 50 Cent is huge, I don't feel like 50 Cent has had the same impact on like artists today as Lil Wayne does. Because I feel like when you ask most people who I'm not gonna say most, but when I ask a lot of people who the greatest rapper of all time is, a lot of them will say Lil Wayne, and you don't hear people saying that for 50. I'm not.
His rap lifespan.
That's what I'm saying.
Definitely shorter for sure. Yeah.
I feel like that's an important part to talk about. Definitely Kanye, just because the production he was on, the songs he was releasing. Even though I feel like let me look it up to be sure, because I feel like his most important work in terms of like inspiration for hip hop is definitely 808s and Heartbreaks. But I think they came out.
I think it's Graduation too, though. I do think it's Graduation too, though.
Graduation's up there, but I think it's 808s and Heartbeats just because of how big auto-tune and 808s and
Yeah.
like the sad topics that he was talking about, like those kind of rap, those kind of styles are prevalent in hip hop.
Yeah. I think they kind of like. I think Graduation and 808s most definitely were very influential. And then Eminem, like he was just like the biggest artist, like in the like you can't think of the 2000s without Eminem. It's kind of the same thing with Jay-Z.
Yeah.
Jay-Z is like the biggest like rap.
So 808s and
ever.
Heartbreaks came out in 2008. So yeah, I'm gonna stick by my statement. Yeah, definitely.
But Graduation was so huge, like in terms of like
all of them were huge.
Yeah. But in terms of like the futuristic sound, they kind of took it to like the next decade. Like it's so huge. Like just Kanye was just ahead of his time though. Like yeah, I don't know. But I guess we kind of cover all four of the topics unless
we haven't done 2010s yet. That's the last thing we have to cover, and then we're done.
So we have to pick four. So when we say 2010s, we have to exclude so we can't say Kanye or whatever. You can't say him because most of his work.
I don't think he's had I think he's had one like really great album in the 2010s.
Maybe no.
He's had one great album and some good ones.
Right.
Because like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy came out in 2010, and that's a great album.
Then his other work.
Life of Pablo is decent. I think the only other one that you could talk about would be Watch the Throne, but that's not a solo project.
Right. Excuse me.
But yeah, like the Kanye's, the Jay-Z's, yeah, definitely not talking about them.
It's easily Kendrick.
Kendrick has to be on there for sure. Kendrick is on there for sure. I think it's the other three that kind of give me ponder and make me really think.
Kendrick is cold. I think it has. Like, if you're just going off the strength of like him being a people's champion, it's cold. Like it's
that's
cold.
Fair.
And then like Drake, obviously. That's
That's my only two certains were Drake and fucking Kendrick.
And I like Cole.
Cole, I can see arguments.
But I'm saying like it's because in the 2010s he's a people's champion, bro.
But I think, but you also have to take in consideration the turn that hip hop took, and so like Future, I feel like Future has to be in that discussion. I was gonna put Future
in there too. I was most definitely gonna say Future.
Future has to be in that discussion.
I was gonna say Future too. That's 4 already though.
That's what I'm saying. But like I'm not even done discussing the 2010s yet.
You damn near put
Put somebody like, even though he started making his appearance later in there, you could put somebody like Young Thug.
Yeah. Young Thug. Some people may argue Travis Scott.
You could definitely argue Travis Scott. That's what I'm saying.
Travis Scott because like his influence on production, even though we'll get to that later. But yeah, Travis Scott most definitely.
You could say Kodak too.
I don't know.
Yeah, you can definitely say. I mean, I know
in terms of influence.
I know you say that, but I'm talking.
Hold on, we missing somebody. So I wouldn't say missing. I want to know your take on this. So like, what about Gucci? Where does he fit into all this? Because a lot of people say they're influenced. Like in terms of Southern rap, a lot of people say they're influenced. And we were missing something in the 2000s. That was one thing we're missing. We're missing Southern rap. That was one thing that we were missing because we didn't put enough.
Outkast, Outkast should have been in that discussion too.
Gucci was huge, like in the South. Like
I mean,
Atlanta was.
Yeah, I understand the South. I feel
Lil
like
Jon and them, like the South was like.
I feel like they were starting to make a heavy presence, but I feel like, especially in terms of what I think of now, I think the South, like Southern hip hop, is really at its peak right now. Because of like the Atlanta artists,
we didn't talk about T.I. either. That's
I know that.
Sad. Like that's a.
But because of like the Atlanta, like the number of Atlanta artists that are out right now, because I'm pretty sure Lil Baby's from Atlanta. You got Gunna, you got Young Thug. It's in Future, like from the Atlanta area too. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like again, I think the 2010s is really the decade of Atlanta because you have a lot of those popular artists who are from Atlanta. So I don't know. When I think of the 2000s, I don't necessarily think of the South, which is kind of sad because again, T.I. was starting to pop. Yeah. Lil Jon, Outkast, which I love Outkast. Yeah, Jeezy,
Gucci.
But Gucci, man, I don't know. I don't listen to him enough to really say. I just
know his influence is like
his influence.
Massive.
You could say his influence is massive, but the problem
in 2010s, like, and then
the problem is,
and then let's not forget in 2010s, let's not forget the phase of like drill rap.
I think it's yeah. So like Chief Keef could be in that discussion too.
Yeah.
I just think it's hard with like somebody like a Gucci because he might have the influence, but he doesn't have the quality of work, in my opinion.
You don't have the defining moment.
That's what I'm saying. Like Drake, Drake has
point to like
some
hits,
defining
point
moments.
to like
That's what I'm
albums,
saying.
You know, same thing.
Kendrick,
with Cole,
same thing
with
with Kendrick, yes. But like in terms
Future,
of
you can kind of do the same thing because a lot of people feel like Dirty Sprite 2 was like, okay, Future's here.
DS2.
Yeah, a lot of people feel like, okay, Future's here.
Yeah, definitely. So. But like Gucci, I can't really say, you know.
But we live in a time period where like albums, like 2010, that was one thing too that I was going to mention. It seems like when we got into like 20, like when like streaming became like a huge thing, having like an album that was like good from top to bottom started to like diminish in terms of like, or the importance of that started to diminish a little bit. So you didn't really need to have like a great album. That's the
I feel like Drake's work is like the epitome of that, because like if you look at his first albums, I feel like a lot of them are great from front to back. Although I don't like Take Care as much, because having gone back and heard like that Weekend project that everybody was saying Take Care is based off of, like you can really tell that Drake is really taking influence from the Weekend on Take Care for sure. Like I feel like Take Care is very heavily is like kind of
a reprisal
of that. I forget the album from the Weekend.
It's House of Balloons.
Yes,
it was
exactly.
2011, so it was like House of Balloons. He had 3 mixtapes that released in that year.
But it's House of Balloons.
House of Balloons for sure was
Yeah, like I feel like, you know, I feel like Drake was definitely taking a lot from that. But like again, like Take Care to me, not Take Care. Nothing Was the Same, which I think is his best album. I think that's great from top to finish.
Because I feel like he wasn't really. I feel like
it's a couple skips that I have, but that was
without like any like
that was him being himself.
His natural.
That's what I'm saying.
But no, that's what I was gonna say. I just like I feel like post 2015, post.
That's
like,
what I'm saying. I think the last
albums don't really.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I think the last great project that Drake has had would be like, if you're reading this is too late. I think after that, I think Drake. One, streams really start taking off after that point. But I think the other thing is that I feel like Drake just started making, like I was having a conversation with this about Leo. Drake really starts making what I consider to be safe music that doesn't necessarily stand for anything or isn't like trying to say a message. It's just music that he knows is going to be very popular, that'll stream.
But as you just mentioned before, he's never really like tried to make music that was so like fair, safe in terms of, so like I was gonna agree with you, but I would say more safe in terms of like the formatting of the song opposed to like the actual subject matter. He's making songs that he knows that like
he knows
all I need is this verse. All I need is this elaborate
or like
that's gonna like
Tootsie
last
Slide.
forever.
I feel like it's the perfect example of that. Like in terms of like an actual song, it's not really that great. But he knows
he's Drake, so like
for one, yes, he understands he's Drake. He understands that he just needs a catchy beat and a good melody and be fine. But two, it's also the fact that he knew he was trying to tailor that song for a very specific purpose. That was supposed to be like a song for TikTok,
or something like
Hotline Bling.
Yeah, right. But one of his biggest songs. One of his, damn near his biggest song for sure.
That it actually is his biggest song.
Yeah,
like commercially, that's his biggest song.
Yeah, God's Plan is up there too, though.
Yeah, and then you have people like Kendrick who, I mean. So
evolves every time he releases a project.
But when I say like Drake, when I talk about like his music doesn't really say nothing, I feel like his earlier works were saying a lot about himself as a person. You know, like Take Care is kind of like him really open, like showing like he's an emotional person. I feel like Nothing Was the Same as him taking through like his kind of growth through like him being a little younger and him trying to find like himself and where he fits in
within the rap game too,
right. And then I feel like if you're reading This Is Too Late, it's like him like with the fanfare and the trumpets in the background saying, okay, this is who I am, y'all know who I am. And that's when he really starts becoming like this braggadocious figure, and he starts bragging about who he is as a rapper and in the industry. And like if you look at his later albums, he might have some songs like Western Road Flows where he'll like kind of tap into that. Or like
he's just pretty much harping on like certain things that he's.
So I'm saying he's
certain
like
themes that he's already known for.
Yeah, he's
just trying to like make a.
Yeah, he's like when I say he's making safe music, I mean like he's hopping on trends. So like that trend where like African beat music was like really popular, which is like Caribbean, like which is where we get like one. Like I said African beat, Afro beat, but which is where we get like one dance from. Like I don't like One Dance is a catchy song. and like a lot of people enjoy it, but like that's to me that's like a safe song because he was hopping on the trend. He didn't really have to invest that much time.
I feel like the difference was that he was a little bit more. He had more balance when he did that because you know what one dance remind me of a song you made before. Find Your Love in 2010.
Fair.
So that's what I'm saying. So like he's always done it, but I think the reason why it's like more it's highlighted now because you can kind of see that like it's starting to be less of a balance there.
Yeah, it's not necessarily nearly as good of a balance.
And making commercial music.
Right. Yeah, he's very heavily into the commercial music because at the end of the day, he's like he feels like he's proven himself as a rapper, and so now he's just out here making music and just chasing numbers. Yeah,
right. And he has the best, and it's interesting to see what he does in this decade because he already talked about he retiring or whatever. Even though rappers don't retire, but like he's already talked about he just said he was the artist of the decade. You know, he ran the game for what?
He ran the numbers
years.
game, yes.
Yeah,
but
12 years. And now it's like what is he like? He could, if he wanted to, he can do something that's innovative. You know, he could do something,
but he's not going to.
But he's not going to because
it's not safe.
He's built a reputation of being on the charts.
That's fair,
being the number one guy.
But that's why I respect people like Tyler, the Creator, and Kendrick a lot more than I respect Drake because they're able to evolve their sound.
Yeah.
Whereas Drake kind of had a sound, maybe tweaked it a little bit, and he just kind of stayed with it. If like especially a lot of the later Drake projects, if you listen to them, they sound very similar. Like I feel like More Life and Views sound very similar. I feel like what was his latest project? Scorpion. I feel like Scorpion sounds like a mix between those two.
Drake is an interesting thing because it's like he always offers room of hope because he'll give you like a song
where he's really rapping.
He's really rapping and you're like, oh my, like this is the Drake that like I like or whatever. And he'll give you spurts of that, but sometimes he won't give you like a
Is there a song? Oh, I was about to say, is there a song like that in a Scorpion? But the song that comes to mind to me on that album, which I feel like is probably the best. To me, it's the best song on that album. It's probably Emotionless.
Yeah. Well, it's one of.
It's one of them.
Yeah, Scorpion's kind of a blur for me. Like, I usually remember, like I remember the album, but like it was kind of a blur for me. It was, not to say that was a bad album, but it like when I think of Drake, like I don't. That's not my go-to.
That's what I'm saying. I'm definitely more like Leon and Miles will say like that's a great album. I'll say it's okay.
I think it's a solid album. I do think it suffers from with it being too long. Just
because there's a side A and a side B, which I think is ridiculous. But
I believe Drake is at his best like on like something like Nothing Was the Same where he has 15, 16 tracks
where he's just giving bars
down straight to the point.
Right.
He'll sing here and there, he'll rap here and there and leave it at that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So like when it comes to like us talking about music, like in terms of us and the people in the house, I feel like what separates you and me from them is like Leon would just go from what he feels like sounds good, and he won't necessarily look at like the rhyme schemes or what they're saying.
He will, but he doesn't.
Not as heavily as us. Whereas we really look at like having it sound good is very important. But I think what people forget about hip hop is that subject matter is very important in hip hop if you look at its roots, because it starts as a way of people venting what's happening in everyday life as a way to vent. And so I feel like that's what really puts Kendrick ahead of Drake, is that Kendrick is able to tie into those roots, whereas Drake kind of just commercialized. He's the epitome of a commercialized rapper, where he's not really necessarily, showing off his roots or tying back to his roots, unless it's somebody like a Lauryn Hill, where he'll take like a sample from her every once in a while.
Right. No, I do think that I feel like,
and that matters to us a lot more than it matters to him.
Yeah, no, and that's the argument we always have. You know what I'm saying? Now, granted, I do think that I'm a little bit archaic when it comes to like receiving music, because like not every song has to be like deep in subject matter or like overly lyrical. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Even though that's my preference or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So there's times where I can't appreciate a Young Thug song or like appreciate like a Lil Uzi song, but I can't listen to that in abundance though. That's when it comes to like I can't listen to that in abundance though.
I think it's just because you really appreciate the lyrical in terms of, because like that's really like a craft, like that's really, and that takes a lot of work.
Yeah, being able to articulate a point in a dope way, and also having like, because like there's people that rap, and that's another thing I mentioned too. Like when it comes to music, in my preference, I like people that rap really good, but I also like people that rap really good and also have a message behind it. There's plenty of rappers that can rap their ass off. They have a bunch of punchlines, metaphors that are dope, but they don't have any subject matter to
Lil
match
Wayne.
it. Point exactly.
Perfect
Like,
example.
Lil Wayne,
He has some subject matter songs, like
Lil
President
Wayne
Carter.
can rap his ass off or whatever, but at the same time, just like he's not rapping about anything really. And I'm saying for me, rarely are there times where like there's very seldom are there times where like a rapper is really effing good or whatever, and that's all I'm here for is just for them to rap good. Most like if you look at like a pattern, like a lot of the rappers I listen to or whatever, you know what I'm saying, like have something that has substance to it, and also like rap really good as well. And like sometimes the sound can be compromising or whatever, but at the same time it's just like I mean like I don't know. I feel like production does play a huge role in terms of like us being more drawn into like what the artist is saying. It's kind of hard to draw into like draw yourself into an artist if you don't like their voice or if you don't like what they're rapping over. That's what Nas had trouble with after Illmatic or whatever, rapping over beats that are like, you know what I'm saying, good to the ears or whatever. But for me, like I don't know, like the first thing I'm drawn into is like what they're saying or whatever, and yeah, and just going from there. And I can acknowledge, and my thing is just like when it comes to production or whatever, I feel like a lot of credit is given to like the artist and not to like the production staff, and that's the issue I have because a lot of these industry rappers or whatever are usually pitched these beats or whatever, and half of the time, you know what I'm saying, like not to take the accountability away from the artists and call them robots or anything, but a lot of the times these industry rappers are like have like a crew that kind of like pitch them beats and they just rap over it or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes they don't even have they'll say, "Oh, I like this one" or "I don't like this one," but they don't really have a say in terms of like, can you do this with, you know what I'm saying? Like that's why I give like credit to like someone like a Young Thug who uses his voice as an instrument, or somebody like a Lil Uzi Vert, even though I don't really care for his music like that, but I can look at like how he's using his voice as an instrument as well, how he's flowing, how he sounds over a beat or whatever, and I can give him credit for that. But I'm not going to give him credit for being lyrical or like, you know, like I don't know how to explain it. Like when somebody tells me that like they like their music because like it bumps in the whip or like it sounds really good or whatever, like I just feel like that accreditation should go to like the people that like make the beats or whatever. Like not enough. Like like honestly, the people that like there's cases where like the lyrics probably took 10 minutes to make, but the beat took like
this is what I'm talking about.
Like 5 days to do, you know.
Right, like there's definitely like with me it comes back to the best example I feel of this is like how Lil Uzi would talk about in a lot of his music, you know, he made this song in a day, he was just in there, you know, they put the beat together real quick and he just rapped over it and just said everything that he, you know, was coming to his head at the time, and it was done. Like that song was over in like a couple hours. Whereas like Kanye with Power again put like fucking years. Well, no, maybe not years, but like
it took him months to make the beat.
Like months just to make the beat. And that's not even talking about like his rapping on it, the bars he put in it. Like I feel like that's what really, again, you're more of the person that respects like the work, and you like the people who put in the time and the effort and really like appreciate hip hop for the roots of what it is and what it's always sort of been.
And also appreciating the craft. And that's another thing. It's just like another reason why I'm such a huge Cole fan is because he's pretty much a triple threat because he makes the beats. He produced like, I want to say,
I feel like Tyler's damn in the same way too.
Tyler's the same way. He produced the beats. He makes the masters and he writes his own lyrics.
Right. I think Tyler even writes. So like,
and Tyler co-writes for other people.
That's what I'm saying. Not only does Tyler co-write for other people, like I feel like Cole does too. But I feel like even when maybe not like a rapper's verse, but let's say like
R&B like inspired.
What song is it that's on Ecor that has Solange in it?
He'll write like a hook for somebody else to do, or whatever.
Yeah, that's what
like,
I'm saying.
For instance,
that's what I was trying to say. Yes.
For instance, like for Power Trip or whatever, like Cole wrote the hook for Miguel to sing or whatever, and like he produced the beat as well on Power Trip, and like
the song is
whole video.
That's the song. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Watching the video for like the time he spent making like that beat or whatever, and all that. Like,
that beat is beautiful.
Yeah, like the sample he used and all that type of stuff. Like Like that's what I'm saying. Like that, like it's stuff like that that like made me fall in love with hip hop. And not to say that like the newer artists who don't really take their craft seriously or anything like that like make me like I don't know like don't deserve to be there. But it's like you start to see like the differences in like who like make music because they love it and like what I'm saying, like they're trying to like make something that like has substance to it or like do something innovative, or like to people that are just there because like they're just there. So
all right, I think it's time to wrap it up.
Yeah, well, it's been fun. We've talked about some different stuff. You kind of got more of a glimpse of like who we are as people, stuff that we're interested in, stuff that we're looking forward to. It's been great. I've really enjoyed myself tonight. I was going to go to the gym, but it's kind of late and I'm hungry, so I'm probably going to eat some chicken and rice. And yeah, this is the M.A.Y podcast.
Appreciate y'all coming out here. We tried to film this one. We don't know if we'll release the film for this one, but we'll definitely release the audio for sure. Episode 2 should be coming out later today, and today is March 21st when we recorded this. There's a chance that this won't be out the same day that we recorded, just because we might have to edit some things. Although I don't think we'll have to edit this one, just like we didn't have to really edit episode 2. But episode 2 should be going out tonight, and then this episode will probably go up like Tuesday. So I appreciate y'all. I really, I enjoy doing this, but I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all listening. Appreciate y'all just letting us chop it up, entertain y'all. In peace.
Been arguing for 30 minutes when I'm gonna get the truth. I ain't believe the shit at first, but they had rock solid proof. Man, it's love.